If you had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip? Yo. His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti, he's nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes so loud, he opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. He's choking how? Everybody's choking now. The clock's run out, time's up, over, loud. Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, there goes gravity. Choke. He's so mad, but he won't give up. Daddies, he know he won't have it. He knows his whole back to these ropes. It don't matter, he's dope. He knows that, but he's broke. He's so stacked that he knows when he goes back to this mobile home, that's when it's back to the lab again, yo. This old rhapsody better go back to this moment and hope it don't pass him.
Listen, we can talk about the flag, but let's talk about the team. Wait.
And good morning, everybody. Live, well, 1/3 of us live from sunny Fort Myers, Florida, which is trending in the AM here on DSM Media. We're live, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Like I said, 1/3 of us outside in Florida, the other two, 2/3 sitting in the cold Philadelphia weather. We got lots to talk about today on Overreaction Monday. I'm super excited. I am Phil Stark at Bearded Knowledge, joined as always on Mondays by my man Mark Moschitelli. Mark with a C, at Mark with a C, Moschitelli, and my main man, Jason Voorhees, at Mustang3651. Good morning, gentlemen, and are you ready to overreact?
Absolutely. Yes. Oh, yeah.
I got to give a shout out to Jason. He updated the video for us. He got Jason and he got Mark into the intro video, so now it's not just about me anymore. It's about the whole trending in the AM family. You're officially part of the intro video, guys. Jason, great job with the video. Much appreciated there.
I love the fact that you cut the snippet where we were getting into an argument about, I don't remember what, something about a flag or something like that. That was a great cut, man. And we must have broke the bank to get the music rights for Eminem too, man.
That wasn't no. That wasn't Eminem. That was a cut up knockoff version that it's not exactly. So it's perfectly legal to use that music. Just so you know. There's nothing wrong with
There's always a way around things.
There's always a way around things, Mark. And Jason,
you guys did great. Awesome.
Yeah. I did nothing. It was I came up with the idea and Jason did all the work there. So we have an official Overreaction Monday intro video now. You can't beat it.
I love it.
Love it.
All right, so it is Overreaction Monday. We are brought to you here on Trending in the AM by Manscaped, the leader of men's grooming products, the GOAT in below the waist maintenance. Make sure you check them out, manscaped.com. Use promo code DSM at checkout, get you 20% off and free shipping. So, guys, we got to talk. Obviously, everybody tuning in today knows we're here to talk about the Sixers. We're going to talk about what we saw. And as the title I made of the show today, hashtag Overreaction Monday, Sixers in 5. I don't care who you're going to put up against us, but after what I just saw Friday and Sunday, Sixers in 5, as I'm going to put my example of the comment right there. Yeah, it's unbelievable. So we'll start with you, Mark. Am I overreacting saying Sixers in 5?
You're underreacting. Sixers in 4. And also, I'll be at Broad and Shunk when the parade somewhere in mid-June. So come see me there. Listen, basketball is not my first sport, but it's really been fun lately. And the adding of Harden to this team, I expected them to improve, but I didn't expect what I saw this weekend. His presence on the court made everyone around him 10 times better. And yes, he's one of the greatest players ever in the NBA, but he also comes in as a reputation of somebody who is a ball hog and shoots the ball 30 times a game. And honestly, where I was most impressed is the assists. I mean, what did he have? Back-to-back games with like 15 assists, 12 assists, 15
Absolutely.
assists?
He had 16 yesterday, and he had 12. Against Minnesota.
So he's what, averaging 14 assists a game.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, like they're saying he's a point guard. I mean, he's really a shooting guard, right? I mean, kind of like a combo guard maybe.
Yeah.
But he's made everybody around him 10 times better. Hell, I mean, Matisse Thybulle scoring now. I mean, like I'm super ecstatic to be a Sixers fan, and so should the rest of the fans out there.
All right, Jason. So you were really good with making a great new intro video for Trending in the AM. Do you know how to set up a live on reaction? Because Mark already said where he's going to be for the parade. That's his overreaction statement. Can we do a live Trending in the AM right from the Sixers parade down Broad Street?
I think we could set that up. Absolutely. Let's friggin' do it. Let's go.
Let's go.
I mean,
are we overreacting 6 and 5?
I mean, I got to be honest. I don't think it's an overreaction. And I kind of differ a little bit from Mark in that I expected this. I expected Harden to do this. And I think I said it on a couple shows. Like, I was actually shocked at the amount of, I don't want to say non-enthusiasm, but it seemed to me when we made the trade that a lot of people were not necessarily like super thrilled about it. I heard people complaining about it, and I couldn't believe, like, to me, when we got Harden, I was, like I said, to me, I know he's a little older, but I have him he's definitely a top 10 player. I think he's still top 5. I mean, the guy, what he does on the court, the fact that he could shoot, obviously the assist, he's second in the league in the NBA in assists, by the way. I think it's 10.3. He's only behind Chris Paul in that. The guy is just a leader. And I think a lot of the stuff about Harden coming out, from other, teams and this and that was overblown. And obviously Daryl Morey wouldn't have made this deal if he wasn't confident that this was going to be huge for this organization. So I expected it, and I got to be honest, I am super, super happy and thrilled. And I think it's only going to get better. I think what we saw is
that's the key.
The iceberg.
Mm-hmm. That's the key, because I mean, I expected this to be a really good, pairing. Like you said, Jason, people that were against it. Why'd you give up Curry? Why'd you give up Andre Drummond? Stupid. I don't understand those people. Mm-hmm. But I didn't expect it so quickly. When you throw a guy like James Harden, who's a completely different ball player than what this Sixers team is used to having on it, the whole entire process of what they do on the court has completely changed. And you didn't expect to see an instant gelling of Joel Embiid and James Harden. I thought there were issues. I mean, you see occasionally, they're not in the right places and stuff in those 2 games, but the instant, team gelling together, it's unbelievable. And I cannot believe how smooth this transition has gone so far. And I just it's an overreaction Monday, but I want to say people need to pump the brakes a little bit and understand we still got 22 games left. There are going to be some hiccups along the road to the playoffs here because this is still a new thing. There's still going to be some stuff that needs to be worked out, some kinks worked out. Luckily, they've got the next 2 days off, so they're going to have another practice or two, which is going to give them more time to work. The fact that we have a light schedule of games over the first week and a half that he's here is so critical right now. I don't care that we got a couple back-to-backs later on, because the amount of practices they're actually able to have right now is really valuable. But again, the fact that this is gelled so quickly. I mean, you look at what Joel Embiid did in these 2 games. Not only has he already been playing at MVP level, he may have already locked up the MVP now with the way he played the last 2 games. What did he have? 25 trips to the free throw line yesterday?
27. I think
27 trips to the free throw line yesterday. 27. That's insane.
And the thing is, he makes his shots. He does. He makes his shots.
How many big, Mark, you're older, you watch basketball, Jason. Have you guys ever seen a big man be able to knock down free throws at the rate and the percentage that Joel Embiid does?
No.
I've never seen a big man do anything that he's doing.
That's true.
Obviously, I wasn't alive. I don't think Will Chamberlain could do some of these things. Like, and that to me is not an overreaction. Like, I think Joel Embiid is a freak, dude. Yeah. He's a freak. He does things that shouldn't be possible for a man of that size. And I also believe that you saw. I didn't see the games, but I saw highlights. Mm-hmm. And what James Harden adds to the team is not just what we talked about, not just his skill, not just the leadership, but the fact that he opens up the court so much for these other players. I mean, Embiid's never had this much space in his life.
Well, he said it after the Minnesota game. He said, his exact quote was, "I've never been this wide open in my career."
Yeah, and then, I saw that one play where Maxey was wide open and there wasn't a guy 12 feet from him. When he had the 3-pointer I think it was the first game. Like that just doesn't happen. That's because James Harden is attracting a lot of attention. And I get it. You're right. There are going to be hiccups, and I do think a little bit of this can be, you can kind of hone it in as being like, from the energy that they got from the momentum, of the trade, and obviously they're starting out quick. There's going to be hiccups. We all kind of have to realize that. But like I said, it's only going to get better because chemistry only grows. So if they already have that amount of chemistry this early, it's only going to get better, the longer they go and the closer we get to the playoffs.
I think the when you say hiccups, there's already one hiccup. It's Tobias Harris. He seems lost.
I was gonna stick to the positives for the first half, then get into the negatives.
Well, it's something that like I kind of feel bad for the guy because he came into the season as the clear number 2, and now he's down to number 4, the fourth choice.
Look, I want to go. I mean, because I even see comments out coming in. Harris, Harris will get. This is the thing with Harris. Harris will figure it out. I said there's got to be chemistry issues. At first. Well, did everybody have to figure it out instantly, Mark? No. Tobias is a streaky shooter. He's just happening to have his 2 streaky bad shooting games in Harden's first 2 games. But if Tobias Harris, who he was 3-9 yesterday for 12 points, and on Friday night he was 2-9 for 6 points, he's going to have games where he goes 4-9 or 5-9. But if he starts having 18 points, and all of a sudden I was going to transition to Tyrese Maxey first, but you want to talk about Harris? Well, if Harris scores 20 points, then we're not talking about Maxey having 20 points.
No, there's only so many shots.
They're not going to score 150 points a game. You know what I mean? So if Tobias Harris could take 9 shots a game, 10 shots a game, knock down 4 or 5 of them, which he will do from time to time, I'm perfectly fine with that. The Tobias slander that I see right now on social media is insane. It's driving me completely nuts.
I don't think I was slandering him. I'm just saying he got a little bit of a slow start.
Your comments brought to my mind again how much slander I'm seeing. People saying just dump him, cut him now, buy him out. I don't crap out there on social media about it.
And I've said this more than a few times. He is an above average basketball player with a superstar contract, and that is why he kind of gets the shit that he gets sometimes. He's actually a very good basketball player, very well-rounded. He's just right now, he needs to find where his place is in this new lineup now. And like you said, it's going to take some time. And they have 22 games to figure it out before they get to the playoffs. And I think they'll have it down pat probably by game 10.
Right. I mean, Tobias Harris, he's going to have to figure out. I'm getting a little echo here. He's going to have to figure out the 3-point shot. I saw somebody saying, obviously an idiot, because they didn't know you couldn't make a trade at this point of the season anymore. They're like, let's trade Tobias Harris for Kevin Love. And we've heard the Kevin Love rumors to Philly now for like 2 years now. But it got me thinking, the Kevin Love role as the stretch forward that just sits out at the 3-point line and that's it, is what Tobias Harris needs to be. And Tobias Harris has knocked down plus over 40% of 3-point shots from different parts of his career. He has been a 40+% shooter at times. So if Tobias Harris could sit out there, take 6 3-point shots a game, because he's going to get wide. He had plenty of wide open looks on Friday and on Sunday. They just weren't falling. If he could start hitting those shots, if he could take 6 3-point shots and knock down 3 of them a game, all of a sudden Tobias Harris's role, no one's going to talk about it. Yeah, he's going to be overpaid for the role, but then he's doing just fine. So people just need to relax and give Tobias Harris and this team as a whole. I mean, Tyrese Maxey integrated perfectly. Maxey, Matisse Thybulle, gelled instantly. I mean, he was already showing that he was getting better at that cut into the basket. You have someone like James Harden attracting all the double teams now, wide open under the basket every time. These guys are being integrated, gelling just right. Somebody was going to have a problem. Tobias Harris just happens to be that problem. And I just want people to pump the brakes. It's not an overreaction to say, pump the brakes on Tobias Harris slander for a little bit, guys. Give him 10 games with James Harden, and then we can talk about it. I saw someone say, put him on the bench and start Korkmaz or Yang in his place.
You don't. I
mean, what's wrong with people?
Has anybody been watching Korkmaz out there? I mean, I don't think I want him to start.
Come on, Korkmaz is the Turkish Michael Jordan. The guy plays with Michael Jordan, confidence, but ball skills that I have. Jason, thoughts on Tobias Harris?
Yeah, I mean, Tobias Harris, like I said, I think that we all can agree that he's had probably one of his worst seasons of his career this year. So to expect that he's all of a sudden going to just go back to being what we expect from Tobias in that role, in that a little amount of time is a little bit. I think it's unfair. I mean,
it's short-sighted.
I'm not saying that people can't be critical of somebody. It's obvious that's what we do. I mean, that's what media does. You're critical of players.
Are we the media? I'm not sure.
I don't know what we are.
Well,
I haven't figured that out yet.
We're social media, but whether you like the guy or not, I mean, you have to admit that the guy has shown a capability when he's not the second option that he can actually thrive in that role. So knowing that, to me, I think it's just an added bonus. If you see the way that this team is playing and you're getting the production from Embiid, Harden, and Maxey, the production's eventually going to come for Tobias. Like, I wouldn't be that guy that's sitting here. I think that's a perfect example of overreacting. People are like, they want him out of here. They want to trade him, get rid of him, sit him on a bench. But they're not those kind of people that are saying that. It's knee-jerk reactions. It's not somebody that's actually that knows the game of basketball and is taking a good hard look at what's going on here, psychologically with Tobias Harris. Because let's face it, like I said, he was kind of thrown in this year to be all this pressure, and he was shown that he's not able to handle that. And you know what? Some people aren't. Some players are not able to handle the spotlight or being, in a role where they're not comfortable. And that's okay. I mean, not everybody is a superstar. If it was, then you would see so many games where it's 170 to 150. Like the scores would just be higher than they are.
Yeah.
The bottom line.
And I know it comes down to his contract because he's one of the highest paid players in the league. But I brought it up on so many shows before. Every team has guys overpaid. Because if we didn't pay Tobias Harris the money, some other team would have maxed him. Chris Middleton from the Bucks, the defending champion Bucks. He's not a Giannis or Joel Embiid or a Nikolai Jokic elite player. I think he's only made one All-Star team in his career, Chris Middleton. But he's a max player because every team maxes players out. That shouldn't. I mean, Andre Iguodala was a max player at one point with the Sixers. Elton Brand was a max player one time at the Sixers. Every team will max somebody that doesn't deserve to get it because if they don't, then they're going to lose that player. And if you just lose every player because you don't want to spend the money on, CJ McCollum gets near max money. He just was traded for Josh Hart. So
hey, don't disparage Josh Hart. He's a
I love Josh Hart. I've been pining so hard for Josh Hart.
He's a very good player
for years. I've wanted him so bad. He knows his role. He does everything. He shoots. He rebounds. He can ball. He literally does a little bit of everything. One night he might have 12 rebounds and 2 points. The next night he might go off for 25 and only have 2 rebounds. I'm a huge Josh Hart fan, but he's not a max player, and he was just traded for one. You know what I mean? So there's so many people that are overpaid in the NBA. That's just the way the contracts and the salary cap are structured with the league agreements right now. But so that you kind of got to take the money and just push it aside and not think about that. Okay. And the Tobias slander, like I said, it wouldn't be happening. Or if he was playing well, then we might be talking about today instead that Tyrese Maxey wasn't fitting in. Or Matisse Thybulle wasn't fitting in properly, or start Danny Green instead of Matisse Thybulle. You look at the last 2 games, Tyrese Maxey, 21 points yesterday and 28 on Friday night. I mean, Tyrese Maxey, he was already playing at a great clip this season. And now all of a sudden he's even freer. There's even less pressure on that 21-year-old kid. I mean, there was a play on Friday night. I know, Jason, you said you didn't watch much of the game. Mark, did you watch Friday night?
I saw the first half.
Okay, in the second half, there was a pass from James Harden to Tyrese Maxey. He was in the corner. Literally, it looked like the Flash, Barry Allen. He caught the ball and boom, right by D'Angelo Russell. An all-star player that was just straight past him, right up to the basket. Literally, if you blinked, you missed the cut. I thought they were going to call a travel because it was so fast. NBA refs love to blow that travel. That's how fast. Tyrese Maxey all of a sudden went from playing great to playing super great and so free, so loose. You got two guys in him and Harden. Both could play point guard, both could play shooting guard. And it's a perfect pair. It's a perfect match. And you even see Maxey making those James Harden step back threes all of a sudden now.
They all want to do it now. They all want to do it.
Yeah, they all want to be like James Harden. So the Tobias slander is there or Tobias has struggled, but Maxey's done well. So you can't. Everybody wasn't going to get how many teams have three guys that score 20 points a game? It never happens. So there was going to be somebody that struggled. So we could talk Maxey, but Maxey doing well is kind of being overlooked because of Tobias's struggles in the first two games.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're talking about Maxey. How about Tybal?
Yeah.
I mean, so Tybal, the last two games, he played 23 minutes and then 28 minutes. He scored 11 points and 8 points respectively. Now, I get it. Will he be able to maintain that pace? Probably not. But I think just the fact that he's shown an ability to like all of a sudden out of nowhere be able to score points. I mean, that to me, if that doesn't tell you that James Harden's made it a difference on this team, then I don't know what will, because he's a guy that, couldn't score,
But see, the thing is, it's not like he's knocking down 3-point shots all of a sudden. Like it's the domino effect of getting James Harden. We already saw the one thing offensively that Matisse Thybulle had started to do well this year was starting to figure out when to cut to the basket. And you saw 2 or 3 times each game, he's cut to the basket at the right moment. And James Harden, for as great of a scorer he is, he's an elite passer of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
He was able to zip that ball under the basket to Tyrese or to Matisse multiple times when he was wide open. And that's where it is. It's the reciprocal effect of having James Harden is benefiting someone like Matisse so much.
So I guess my proposal to that is, instead of bashing Tobias and being so hypercritical of the guy, let's look at the positives. Like, screw the negatives. There's going to be negatives on every team. I mean, nothing is perfect. There's negatives everywhere you go. In any job, there's going to be bad days and good days. There's going to be bad people that work for you, and there's going to be good people. Let's focus on the good, because like I said, the last 2 games have just shown you that it's basically a precursor to what we can expect in the playoffs. Now, obviously, you know what else is? Well, they're going to be going up against stiffer competition, but
well, we're going to have different competition starting on Friday when we go up against. We start that 4-game super tough stretch on Friday. The one thing I want to get back to Maxey and Matisse and all in the offense in a second, but we talk about gelling and on. I saw another play yesterday in the fourth quarter of the Knicks game where offensively, in my opinion, it's easier to gel offensively than it is defensively, because you kind of got to offensively, you see where the guys are cutting, you pass the ball, whatever, guys get open looks. But defensively, you've got to trust your teammates defensively. And there was a play yesterday. I'm trying to bring up the Knicks roster so I can see who it was. All right, so Quigley, he's one of their backup guards for the Knicks. He was driving to the basket, and Joel went to crash the block. And James Harden had normally what we've seen with the Sixers, when Joel Embiid goes to block somebody that's driving the basket, the other guy, the other defender on the Sixers follows Joel. And James Harden backed off and covered the guy that Joel Embiid left open to go make the block. If James Harden doesn't do that, Quigley dumps the ball underneath. There's a wide open dunk. But James Harden had trust in Joel, and Joel had trust in James Harden instantly on the defensive side to be able to make that move. And James Harden was smart enough. He's not an elite defender, James Harden, but he was smart enough to know to hang back. And there's already trust being formed defensively, and I think that's really key.
Yeah, I'm big on fundamental basketball and playing defense. That's why I like Matisse Thybulle so much. Mm-hmm. The trust factor between Embiid and Harden is just going to infect the rest of the team, because, listen, Embiid's the leader of the team, and if he's essentially vouching for Harden on the court, that everybody should follow in step. Mm-hmm. And whether it's the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball. But, man, just to get back to Harden, in these 2 games, this is a different team. This is a completely different team that went from 0 to 60, just like that. And the league is on notice. This is not these are not the Ben Simmons Sixers, man. Like they are going to be a problem for any team that has to face.
James Harden has already passed Ben Simmons on the all-time Sixers three-point shot made list. He's played 2 games. He's already passed Ben Simmons on the list. Sorry. Yeah, but
I mean, you want to get back to it. I mean, listen, the reason why Ben Simmons is here, he was a guard that refused to shoot. Yeah. He was a guard that refused to shoot, and when the push came to shove, he couldn't stand up to his flaws or try to make himself better. Listen, Herb McGee, who is a respected coach in Philadelphia basketball, even said it. He goes, Ben Simmons is a player that did not want to improve. I mean, when you're talking about like one of the classiest guys who has been basketball in probably like, I think 6 decades in Philly says that, there's something wrong with that player. And thank God he's not on this team anymore. And I don't know how the hell they were able to do this and get Harden and not give up any of the major pieces. That is a huge win.
And if you listen to social media, like national social media or Sports Center or Fox Sports, everyone's talking about all everybody's talking about is Ben Simmons and the Nets and how great they're going to be together and this and that. And they've already pretty much ruled out Ben Simmons till after the March 10th Sixers game, which, Jason, I'm pretty sure I said that on Friday's show. Did I not say? It was either Thursday or Friday last week. I said Ben Simmons should just sit out till after the Sixers game because it's going to make his image even worse if he comes back and plays 1 or 2 games, then has to sit mysteriously for 1 game because he's whatever. So I did bring that up, and now all of a sudden he has a tight back. So he's going to need, an extra week or 2 to stretch the back out, they said. So that actually is pretty smart on the Nets to do that. To just hold him out till after March 10th.
Yeah, I mean, I knew I'm not going to lie. I've told you my thoughts. You know where I stand on Ben Simmons. Exactly. I don't think he even likes basketball. Yeah. I don't think that's his
I agree with you, Jack.
Love. I don't think Ben Simmons really cares if he does well or not. I think he's more concerned about his ego. That's his number one concern for Ben Simmons is stroking his ego, making himself look good and being happy. And I don't think basketball makes him happy, regardless of the situation. I think he's going to quickly learn that it's no different in New Jersey because when he starts, pouting like a little baby, you think Durant is going to put up with that bullshit?
No.
Kevin Durant is going to tell him to go pound sand, sit the bench. And Kevin Durant.
If he didn't like his teammates, because if he thought his teammates in Philly were hard on him, his teammates in Brooklyn are going to be because Kevin Durant's not going to, quietly do it, in the locker room
like Joel.
He's going to do it he's just going to throw his hands up right on the court. And he's just going to call him out in public right on the court. Kevin Durant's not a, whatever it is kind of guy. Like Joel Embiid and Doc Rivers last year did everything they could in public to support Ben Simmons. That's not the case in Brooklyn. They're completely different. And who even knows what Kyrie Irving's going to say to him? Because you never know what Kyrie Irving's going to say on any given day.
Ben Simmons has been coddled his entire basketball career going back to high school.
Right.
And it's part of the reason why Brett Brown had carte blanche here for so long. Exactly. Because he was tight with the family until he couldn't be the coach anymore.
Right.
And, and it's probably part of the reason why Jimmy Butler isn't here either, because from what I heard he was really, really hard on Simmons in practices and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And, and they made a choice, Simmons over Butler. Maybe they should have chose the other way. But
all the mistakes that we've made as an organization the last 3 or 4 years, I'm okay with. Because now we're at this point and we've got James Harden. Like I said last week, the process is over. The process was about acquiring stars. We've got our stars. We need a new nickname for the team. We can't be the process anymore. We need something else because it's all over now. This is it. Win a title or not, the whole point of what we went through for the last 10 years was to get to this point right now. And it's a fantastic thing. James Harden, you bring up Kevin Durant, and I was thinking about it the other day. I always kept saying that James Harden is one of the best scorers in NBA history. He's not he's one of the best players of all time, but I was trying to think about, Kevin Durant and Carmelo Anthony are two names that come to mind. Two of the best scorers of all time in NBA, at least in the last 50 years. James Harden is so much more than just a scorer. He is one of the best offensive players in NBA history. So I actually almost put James Harden above Kevin Durant because Kevin Durant's a one-trick pony. Kevin Durant's a scorer. That is what Kevin Durant does. Carmelo Anthony, one of the best shooters of scorers of all time. But James Harden is so much more on offense than that. You see Maxey, you see Matisse, you see everybody, how free they play with him and how all the open looks and all. Is it an overreaction to say? I saw this on Twitter somewhere this weekend. Someone said that James Harden is the best guard that's ever played for the Sixers. Is that an overreaction? While you're thinking about Jason?
You'd have to go back to
it's
Hal Greer.
Well, I was thinking Allen Iverson. The guy was basically taking a shot at Allen Iverson with that comment.
It's not an overreaction because if it's true what you're saying that he is one of the top offensive players of all time, the Sixers have had Iverson, Dr. J, Moses, Will Chamberlain. They've been the best players of the Sixers, right?
Right.
So is Harden better than any of them? I believe Harden's better than Iverson. I believe Harden's better than – I think Harden's better than Dr. J. I know that's crazy and blasphemous.
It's crazy. It's crazy that we
I believe that. He's still only 32.
Mark's head's about to explode.
I know that, but he's still only 32 years old, guys. And what's crazy is that people were saying he was washed. And that's just a funny, hilarious – talk about an overreaction. Like all these, Nets people saying, you can have him. He's washed.
Or he's a bad teammate. Just wait. I've seen a lot of tweets that just watch. The honeymoon will end very soon. And I just don't see it. I see this is the James Harden, Joel Embiid relationship on and off the court is very similar to the Joel Embiid Jimmy Butler relationship on and off the court. And you still saw on All-Star Weekend, you still saw Joel Embiid and Jimmy Butler buddy and hanging and chit-chatting and talking. I've read reports that Jimmy Butler and Joel Embiid still talk, in between games, like before and after games, and they still through phones and through conversations, still help each other's games out. That's exactly what I see with James Harden, except James Harden is 10 times the player that Jimmy Butler is. So,
which is crazy.
It's an overreaction, but it's also not an overreaction to say that James Harden is the best. I mean, guard-wise, you got Greer, you got Iverson, and you got Mo Cheeks. They're your best guards in Sixers history.
Andrew
Is James Harden better than any of them?
I think James Harden is. Yeah, he's like he is, but like for his overall career, he's better than him. But as a Sixer, I mean, he's only played 2 games. I mean,
exactly.
Let's see what else he does. I mean, I'll say this with Harden on this team now is akin to the Sixers in the offseason trading for Moses Malone and getting over that hump.
Absolutely.
Over of these again, like these are opponents that they should have beaten, the Timberwolves and the Knicks, and they towards the end of each game they kind of ran away with each game.
The Timberwolves are a better team than people realize. The Knicks are a bad team. The Knicks have lost a boatload of games in a row, but the Timberwolves, I mean, they're a decent team. I mean, they're in the 7th spot in the Western Conference, but that's just because the Western Conference has got some really good teams. Though they would actually be. No, they'd be in the 7th spot. They'd actually be the 7th in both conferences. I mean, they're 32-29, so they're no slouch of a team. The Knicks, on the other hand, the Knicks are just dreadful right now.
Yeah,
they've won one of their last 10 games. The Knicks, so
sucks to be them. It's a New York team. I don't care.
Them. Yeah, exactly. So, looking forward to this here. Obviously we got the Knicks again Wednesday night. We got 2 more days of practice, which I keep saying, I keep reiterating how important having these days off early in the Harden and Embiid era for practice is so important. We got the Knicks again, then we got the tougher stretch. So we got 22 games left. I keep bringing up how many games are we going to win? How far can this team go? And I know it's only 2 games. I had said they were going to win 16 or 17 of their last 24. And I know it was only 2 games. I know the Knicks were one of those opponents. But hashtag overreaction. I mean, they could conceivably, they're only 2.5 out of the first spot. They've got the Bulls and the Heat coming up in the next week or so.
Those will be.
Can they get the 1 seed?
Tests.
Yeah, that's going to be it's the Cavs, the Heat, the Bulls, and the Nets. Bing, bang, boom, 4 games in a row there. Depending on how that next 4-game stretch goes, I absolutely could see the Sixers getting to the top spot in the East again. I don't think it's an overreaction to say that.
It's not an overreaction because, like I said, I think you said that your prediction was they'd win 17 in the next 20, some games.
Yeah.
If they continue on this trek, that's very well possible. I mean, obviously, they've already shown that they can beat teams with Milwaukee, the Nets, without James Harden. Now you're adding James Harden. It's going to be a totally different game when you play these teams. Not saying that it's not going to be hard, because it will, but I like challenges. I think this team needs some challenges before it gets to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, whether it's a season by season parameter or if you're looking at a whole, a team has to embrace some type of failure to have success. So I think the team having a couple games where they don't do well is only going to help them in the playoffs, because they can't go into the playoffs with the mindset that we got this, because we've seen plenty of teams that do that in every sport and they fall flat on their ass. So there needs to be some kind of, like, I'm not saying like failure in that they necessarily lose, but there has to be some, issues where it's like, okay, guys, where you learn from that and you learn from your mistakes, because that's, to me, is the key to any team developing that winning attitude. It's called chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
And that's bred by not having success. It's bred by actually having some failures along the way and learning from those failures and getting better.
I agree with you.
That's why I'm not even worried. Because listen, I believe this team has a legit shot at winning a title. Mm-hmm. But if they don't win the title this year, obviously we know James Harden's going to be back. I mean, obviously I know he didn't sign the extension, but there's going to, maybe there'd be some other moves and Tobias is going, whatever. The bottom line is this team is set up to win now. It can win this year. It can win next year. If it doesn't win this year and it loses, I'm telling you, next year is a guarantee. Because to me, that's those kind of things where teams lose and all of a sudden they're hungrier. We've seen it in every sport. You could see examples of that where, down the stretch, teams have made trades, but then there might be like some kind of, it might not even be on the court. It might be an outside distraction that happens, but then the team kind of bands together around that.
Jay, I agree with you. I think the last thing that they want to do is go into the playoffs, winning 24 straight and not feeling – I'm serious. Not feeling failure or having a really bad loss and see how they react to it. The last thing you want to do is have them face adversity in like a game 7 of an Eastern Conference final. But like they need to kind of be humbled a little bit. Be humbled a little bit now.
I mean, they've got, like I said, they got that 4-game stretch. It's really difficult, but they've got the Suns. They've got Milwaukee on the schedule still. They've got a couple games with Cleveland still on the schedule. There are games that they could be humbled in. So, the adversity will happen at some point. It's how we go. It could be that 4-game stretch coming up after the Knicks game. It could be they could go 1-3 in that 4-game stretch, and then we'll see how James Harden and Joel Embiid handle that. What they do, how they react as a tandem, and how they react in that locker room. It'll really be telling of what the rest of the season is going to be.
Yeah, you almost want them to I don't want them to go 1-3, but maybe 2-2. Because right now they're kind of sniffing themselves. They got their chest out a little bit. I'm not saying that I want them to lose, but let's see how do they handle adversity as this new 76er team, and what do they do to take steps to improve on the mistakes that they made that would cause a bad loss. I think that just seeing Harden at some of the post-game news conferences, I mean, he's already said it. He's like, listen, I've accomplished everything that I've wanted to accomplish as a player with respect to individual records and things like that. Right. He wants to win a championship, and he believes that here is the place that's going to happen. And he's basically deferred to Embiid as being the team leader. I mean, he could have been the guy that comes in. Yeah, and that's what he – I think he was the guy in Houston for so long, and they couldn't get over the hump. He's here now that he can provide – and he's obviously older in his career now, that he can be the last piece of the puzzle and the mentor to the younger players that he's doing to Maxey and to a lesser extent Thibault right now. I think it's – again, I'm going to say it again. The Sixers are going to be a problem, and the league better take notice.
So I do want to go negative for a few minutes here. Can I say, is it an overreaction to say that if we do not win a title this year, it's not because of Joel Embiid, it's not because of James Harden, it's because of two people, two mistakes. One, it could be about Doc Rivers. You could say Doc Rivers will be the person that cost us, because again, he swore he was not going to run the all bench lineup. He was going to have 4 at all times. And again, instantly on Friday night, you had all bench guys and Tobias Harris out there. Yeah. What the hell? Or could you put the blame on Daryl Morey, because still we don't have a legit backup center? I mean, Paul Millsap, I think, is playing the role, the small ball center role, really well so far. And people are forgetting about what Paul Millsap can actually bring to a table and to a team. So I'm okay with him right now. But the fact that they went out and they picked up a 10-day contract with Willie Cauley-Stein, dude, the guy looks like he hasn't had a cheeseburger in like 6 years. I mean, he looks like a gust of wind will snap him in half. So I'm still concerned that if we don't win this year, it's going to come down to A, stubborn Doc Rivers, poor rotational choices, or B, Daryl Morey not making, I'm going to use my word for the day, ancillary moves. Jason,
I love that word.
Yeah, Jason loves when I find a way to sneak it in every episode. The ancillary moves, not getting a backup big. Because I think we've seen in the first 2 games that not getting a backup point guard can be managed around, because you have Matisse and you have Maxey and you have Harden. One of them can be on the court at all times if Doc does it. And Shake playing 7 or 8 minutes a game, that's manageable. But the backup big could be a serious issue.
I disagree. Maury's done everything in his power to improve this team, and he's filled that role of the backup center last year with Howard, this year with Drummond. He didn't re-sign Howard, but Drummond was a perfect fit, but he needed that piece to get Harden, which he needed even more. So where's he going to get a backup center that is going to be on the level of Harden and Drummond? Right now, he's not. So he's got to play with the hand that he's dealt, the lesser 2 evils. And I think he's made the right moves. I think the onus is on Doc Rivers. Like, you got all the pieces of the puzzle now, Doc. Like, it's up to you to manage that team to the championship. And when you come out and say you won't be doing the all bench lineups, and you do all the all bench lineups, like, that's not a good look. And you know, he can't let leads get away from him because he's getting funky with these lineups. And I think he goes into these games with every intention of having at least 2 of the guys out there. But as the game unfolds, I think he gets frantic, and, you know, he's got to rest guys, or the matchups aren't what he thought they were. And he goes to his comfort zone, is doing those lineups. And he doesn't have to do that anymore. He doesn't. So he just needs to kind of manage the game a little bit better than what he is.
I'm pretty sure yesterday he did. I don't think he did it yesterday.
How much? I'm curious. Just the question I have, Phil. I'm curious. Like, how much influence does Sam Cassell have on making decisions at all? Like,
I'm not sure how much he has final say. But I mean, I know Doc Rivers trusts Sam Cassell to make decisions. Now, whether he has enough say to have final say, I don't know. But it almost seems like that Sam Cassell has been being groomed to be Doc Rivers' replacement here. If he hung up the coaching, clipboard, at the end of the season, somebody's going to give Sam Cassell a head coaching job next year, whether it's us or somebody else. I don't know, Doc's the final say, how much Doc, takes from Sam Cassell, but I know he trusts him and trusts his opinion majorly.
Yeah, I guess I'm just curious because I was wondering maybe, Sam Cassell could see the same thing that we see and maybe tell Doc, like, hey, you might want to not go away from, what you said.
Go ahead.
I think it's all Doc, and you could probably talk his ear off on the bench, but Doc's going to do what Doc wants to do. He's the head coach. It's his team. He's probably doing the team a disservice if he's not listening to an up and coming coach like Cassell. And listen, he's got that reputation of doing that. Like, he's always done that. So this should be no surprise. But like, you have 4 legitimate superstars right now. There's a way you can find 2 of them on the floor at any given time.
It's so easy.
He just needs to figure it out.
He's got to commit to it. That's all he is. The one thing I will say about Doc and this whole James Harden, this new big 3, big 4, whatever you want to call it, is Doc Rivers, his one NBA title as a coach with the Celtics was in year 1 with the big 3, that big 3, the Garnett, the Paul Pierce, that big 3 they built in Boston. They did win at first, and then they tailed off. So he was able to maximize the initial impact of having those big 3 together. That's we could talk till we're blue in the face about Doc Rivers' rotation, but he did already get the max out of a big 3 right away. So that's the glimmer of hope that I'm holding on to with Doc as the head coach this year, is that he's done it before. Hopefully he could do it again this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's a professional coach. He could do it. He's already proven it. He's didn't they list him like one of the top 25 greatest coaches of all time?
One of the top 10 coaches of all time, or 15 or something.
Yeah, I think that's a little generous, but
it's because he's been coaching for
he's not
20
Brett
years and he's got a lot of wins. I mean, it's crazy to think he's only won 1 NBA title as a coach, because he had some really great teams with the Clippers. He had a great team with the Celtics. He only won 1 title with the Celtics. And he was with Orlando for forever as a head coach as well. So, I mean, his win-loss record, his wins are so high because he played till he was 37 and then started coaching at 38 and has been coaching nonstop. I don't think he's ever had a year off.
I think we all agree that Doc Rivers, obviously has pluses and minuses. Every coach does. I mean, obviously, a lot of his weaknesses remind me of Brett Brown's, in that, it's always his in-game decisions that sometimes we question. But as far as his coaching style and his leadership, to me, he's wavelengths ahead of Brett Brown, in that not only does he get the most out of his players, as you said, like the big 3 and superstars, but he also does a very good job at integrating the young talent and allowing them to develop. I mean, we've seen it in front of our eyes with Maxey and Tybalt, and thank God that we didn't have to move those guys in a deal for Harden. But I just think the fact that you're seeing what Harden is doing, obviously after only just 2 games, the sky is the limit. And I think Doc Rivers, if there is any coach that can do it, you just nailed it. He did it in year 1. Now, obviously he never did it again, but this team is definitely on the cusp. Whether they win it this year or they lose and they win it next year, they're going to win a championship, and that's not an overreaction in my mind. I'm calling it now. Yeah. They're winning a championship, and
I've said it since day one.
Go absolutely ballistic, because 1983, I was 7 years old then. I don't even remember the parade.
3.
Yeah, I was 7.
I
was 9. But go ahead.
We're dating ourselves, guys. Dating ourselves here.
It's okay.
Making me feel good and young here. I'm the youthful guy on this team.
This town is going to go absolutely apeshit if they win. Because remember what happened with 2017 when the Eagles won? I realistically believe that this could be on the same level as that. Even though there's not as many maybe as basketball fans as football, but the fact of the matter is that it's still a basketball town. It's Philly. We know how our fans are passionate, diehards. And the fact of the matter is we have 2 superstars on this team. Not 1, 2. And maybe a third in the wings, like with Maxey. So
Maxey. I mean, at this point, you got to think that if James Harden, plays here for 3 or 4 years, in 3 or 4 years, Tyrese Maxey is still going to be 24, 25 years old, and he's still going to be just entering his prime. So it's insane to think that we might have that as the taking over the leadership of the team. So let's recap this Sixers thing. # Overreaction Monday today. Hashtag Sixers in 5. It is not an overreaction. It's an underreaction based off of Mark's statement, right? And we're look, I said it since day one. 2 teams scared me at stopping us from winning a title. The Milwaukee Bucks in the East. They are the defending champions. And the other team they beat in the playoffs last year, the Phoenix Suns. But Phoenix now, they have Chris Paul's out till probably the playoffs. He hurt his thumb, tore some ligament in his hand, something like that. So maybe they're not as fearful. I'm not as fearful of them as I used to be. It's basically, can we beat the Bucks? And if we do, how many games is it going to take? That's all we're coming down to. Sixers. I used that a lot last year in the playoffs. Hashtag Sixers in 5. I'm going to use it for the rest of the season now. Sixers in 5.
It's sweet.
It's going to be great. I mean, we're just so pumped. I just one simple trade, not simple, but one great trade just took us from being excited about this Sixers team to talking about a potential NBA Finals win with this team. It's crazy. We were talking, could they get to the Eastern Conference Finals? Now we're talking, how many games will it take to win the finals? That's what one trade did, and 2 games since that trade. It's crazy.
I think this discussion sets up a great topic for a future show, Phil.
Okay.
What was the best Batman-Robin duo in Philly sports history?
The best Batman-Robin in Philly sports history.
With right now, obviously, James Harden and Embiid. Like, I think it's a great topic.
We have to do it. Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley.
Pete Rose, Mike Schmidt.
Yeah. Dr. J, Moses Malone. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of them that are out there.
Lindros and LeClaire. We might have to figure that one out. We might have to do a top 10 list there, on a show.
That sounds like a great show topic.
Yeah, it does.
And let me just add, you and Jay, you kind of alluded to it. This is a closeted basketball town. Basketball has a rich history in Philadelphia, going to high school basketball, college, and the pros. And it's been dormant for a bit because most of the college teams have been stagnant at best, and the Sixers have gone through the process in some really, really bad years, but it's on an uptick. And I know we didn't talk much about it, baseball.
I was just going to bring it up.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about another sport that's probably going to eclipse baseball in this town. Where baseball, you could argue it was maybe the number 2 sport in town. We got a problem with baseball, and
we can touch on it real quick before we wrap this show up. I'm saying, hashtag overreaction. Baseball gets the deal. The baseball gets the deal done today, and they wrap it up today. I think it's an overreaction because I'm not sure if I believe what I'm saying, but they've now met 7 days in a row. They've been making progress, and I think both sides realize the gravity of the situation if they miss games, and I think they realize, the fans and how the fans will react if they have to cancel games. So I say today by 7:00 tonight, maybe they don't have the agreement signed tonight, but they have the framework done so that they end the lockout. The owners end the lockout. Players can report to camp and start working out. And then in the next day or two, they finish the finer details of the contract. It's signed, and we don't miss games. Is it an overreaction, Jason?
You don't want to get me started on baseball.
Well, you get 3 minutes. I heard somebody say that there's a way you can get like a little countdown clock on the screen. I'm going to set the clock to 2 minutes. You get 2 minutes.
Do not want to get me started on this subject. I am so over it. Like, I'm at the point where if they don't,
so it doesn't matter whether you're over it or not. Is it going to get done today? Because that's what the owners say, that there's an ultimatum, a deadline today, which I think that's a little bogus anyway. I think that's just a negotiating tactic by the owners, putting a deadline on it today. But I say it gets done today.
I don't.
No,
I'm very concerned. I said this way back.
I think it's a big, what if? I think the point is that there's just so much greed involved in this on both sides. I mean, I don't think generally I would always side with the players, but in this aspect, I'm not just side. I think there's problems on both sides because, as you said, they're not negotiating in good faith. They're not coming together and realizing that they are totally abandoning the fans and they are totally alienating any hope of the game getting better. Baseballs went from maybe being close to the number 2 sport they're actually probably below hockey right now, which is sad. And if they do if they do miss games and we have another shortened season, there's going to be a lot of people that don't come back for a while. Like, and I told you how I am. I told you my thoughts and how I operate. And everyone's entitled to their opinion and everyone's entitled to do what they want. But I'm not going to pay to go to a game when I have these people that make, dude, it's astronomical amounts of money more than us. Dude, the everyday person cannot even relate to how much money these guys make. I mean, it's not fathomable when you have people that bust their ass for 40-hour-a-week jobs just to live. And then you have these guys that can't come together and come to an agreement when they're complaining. I mean, you had Juan Soto who turned down a $350 million contract before the season. What does that tell you? That guy, first of all, he's a knucklehead because if he gets hurt and that was a guaranteed contract. Baseball is the only sport that has guaranteed contracts. So I don't know, man. I'm at my wit's end with baseball. I'm so disappointed that it's come to this, and I don't have any faith that it's going to get done. You'll.
Again, that's why it's Overreaction Monday. I think I might be. It's probably probably one of the biggest things I've said on an Overreaction Monday show that I don't. One of the few things I truly don't believe that I'm saying when I'm saying it, but maybe there's that America's sport, my first love, my baby, baseball. My first tattoo is a Phillies tattoo. Maybe it's just a little bit of that fanboy in me that just wants to see it get done, and they get it done. But I'm hoping, I guess is a better word, that they get to the negotiating table today, and they realize the gravity of the situation. Like let's get this done. Mark,
I don't have any confidence that it's going to get done. Getting back to Jason. I don't think it's an owner thing. I don't think it's a player thing. I think it's both of them. They're not reading the room that their sport is dying. They need to be relevant, and they're not there. Honestly, if it were me, I'd shorten the season to 140 games. I'd expand the playoffs, and I'd find a way to speed up those games. I'd probably limit the roster to 10 or 11 pitchers. Not having like 13 pitchers where they're specialists. You got to move the game, and you have to increase offensive output. And all the money will eventually flow in if you can find a way to do that stuff. And there is money to be had there. It's who gets the Philadelphia Stars. Yes, at least we have the Philadelphia Stars.
I got a text message from Vince. He's one of the player agents for Pro Level Sports Agency. You guys have seen him and some of their players on our shows before. And he texted me during the draft multiple times. And he said, you guys have the absolute, no doubt about it, best team in the league. And he knows he runs a scouting website called the Alternate Scouting Site. And basically he does scouting reports on players that aren't playing in the NFL, playing in the smaller leagues. And he said, we've got the best quarterback that no one's ever heard of in Brian Scott. Yeah, if he played at Division II or Division I school, he would be in the NFL. But because he played at Division III, no one knows who he is.
Occidental College.
Yeah. I'd never even heard of it before. Yeah, you could point it to me on a map, and I wouldn't even know it existed. But supposedly, we have a fantastic team with the Philadelphia Stars, and I will get Game 1. I will watch Game 1. I will give them a week or two and see how they play, and see if the level of play is worth my time or not. I will definitely give the Philadelphia Stars a chance.
All the games are being played in a bubble in Alabama, though. So I was really disappointed because I thought they were playing locally, and I was like, shit, I'll go to a game.
Yeah, they're doing it because, I haven't read the super details on the Philadelphia Stars and the USFL, but they're trying to control costs. All the players are making the same amount of money. There's bonuses for wins. There's, it's very structured and keep it like it's all being played in a bubble, not because of COVID, but because it's cheaper. They're keeping everybody together, so there's less money being spent on travel, less money being spent on stadiums. They're trying to control the costs at first, which is really smart as a business practice because we've seen so many football leagues try to start up, and the number one thing that they always fail, they spend too much money and they don't cover those costs. So now they're kind of trying their best to control those costs. I think it's a smart way to get it started, at least in the first. They say they have hopes in year 2 or 3 to move the teams back to their cities. But the first year and maybe even second year, they're going to stay in a bubble to kind of control those costs.
Smart move.
That's a great call out.
Yeah, it is. I'm excited. I'm going to watch it. I've reached out to Brian Scott. If you're listening, come on this show. I want you on this show. I've reached out to the Philadelphia Stars. Maybe get their coach on. We'll see if that happens or not.
Who's their coach?
I don't even know. I forget his name already. But I've reached out to him. It's really hard to get a hold of anybody at the Philadelphia. You would think the Philadelphia Stars would be begging for some promotion, but
sure.
I've been struggling to get them.
I mean, the reason why I asked, Jeff Fisher is a coach in the league.
Yeah,
so there's some legitimate coaches that are out there.
There's actually a couple former NFL players. A couple of them from the Eagles. One of the offensive linemen played for the Eagles about 4 or 5 years ago. I forget his name. Varejao. I forget his name. He was one of the backup offensive linemen. He's in the league, and the guy that was the backup quarterback for the Giants for a while. I think he's on
Thorson. Clayton Thorson is in there.
Thorson's in there. There's quite a few former NFL players that are playing in the USFL. So they're not stars, but they got some names.
That's great.
All right, let's wrap this up. Sixers in 5, Overreaction Monday, right here on Trending in the AM, live, DSM Media. Make sure you guys share the show out. Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, retweet, share, like, hit that subscribe button. We've passed the road to 500. We're on to the road to 1,000 on YouTube. Got to get it to 1,000 subscribers. Then I'll just start talking about the road to 2,000. I'm just an overly obnoxious person. I just keep pumping it over and over again. But we appreciate you, my host today, because you're not guests anymore. You're part of the intro video now. That means you're part of the show. At Mark C. Moscatelli, a.k.a. Philly Eagles fan. Give him a follow. Jason Voorhees at Mustang3651. Also his Sports and Metal podcast, Drunk on Ice podcast. They had a great show last week, the Drunk on Ice show. Because the Flyers are still a thing. They won this weekend. That's all the Flyers I'm going to talk about right there. I am your host, Phil Stiefel, at Bearded Knowledge on Twitter. Just make sure you give us all a follow and interact with us. And, I don't have my soundboard, so I'm going with the cheesy StreamYard music as we go off the air here. But instead of Go Birds, we got to end it with Sixers in 5.
Sixers.
Sixers in 5, baby.